Fanatic.com brought to you by Patrick Eads and his staff at Deary Brothers Ford. Steve Anderson, Hawkeye Title and Settlement. Mike's E-Keys for Cars. Tavern Blue on the Coralville Strip. GT Car and his crew at Supel's Building and Remodeling. Supel's Flowers, home of 1-800-800-ROSE. The Midtown Family Restaurants. Harty and Stocker Jewelers, 101 South Dubuque Street, downtown Iowa City. Also brought to you by Diamond Dreams Sports Academy, Premier Automotive, the Ox Yoke Inn in the Amanas, Streets Maintenance, doing remodeling and plumbing, Dr. Lance Forbes, Diamond Dental in Cedar Rapids, and Big Dog Tech Solutions. Here's Tom Suter and Pat Harty from HawkFanatic.com with Coach Don Patterson.
Okay, well, Coach, welcome. I'm so glad that we're able to sit here and talk about a big victory, big second-half comeback by the Hawkeyes, because I can't even imagine how bleak it would be sitting at 2-2 right now with a bye week and then at Ohio State. So what are your initial thoughts about Saturday's game?
Well, it was fun after the game, Tom, to be able to say so many positive things about the way the game played out. Hats off to the coaches to begin with. I think the big difference in the game was the halftime adjustments on both sides of the ball. We did a good job of changing up our plan on both sides of the ball, and they got excellent results, of course, as the game played out. And let's face it, we beat them 24-0 in that second half. Mm-hmm. And that was a really resounding win. But just to give you an idea of how dominant we were, if you look at I have a prediction model based on last season that can identify the winning team 95% of the time. It involves 5 parameters that are the most important parameters. Guess who won all 5 of them?
I'm going to guess Iowa.
That's pretty obvious we did. And for that matter, we won 9 of the top 10 parameters.
Impressive.
So in so many cases, we were simply better than they were at the things that mattered the most.
Don, I got to ask, and good morning to begin with, but I got to ask, I was there, of course, but it's different when you see it on TV after being there. The safeties for Minnesota on some of Iowa's, it just seemed like Minnesota was taking really bad angles for tackles. And then after the game, P.J. Fleck kept talking about this game can be defined in one word, space. And then I didn't hear what else he went on to say, but is that Iowa doing a great job of making them take those bad angles, or is it a little bit of both?
Well, I think the defensive coordinator from Minnesota would probably simply point out, and I was aware that they were playing with some safeties that were not their original starters. But the bottom line, you got to adjust to the game. And for that matter, it doesn't take a genius watching video of Iowa football for you to realize if your job is to contain Caleb in the open field, you better not underestimate his speed.
Yeah.
And those guys did. They took 4 angles. They got outflanked. He's a little faster than what people realize. Mm-hmm. And of course, we got good downfield blocking, too. There's certain times for sure
Jacob Gill.
There was a key block by a wide receiver that helped him to spring loose. But the bottom line, he's a difficult runner to contain in the open field. And we took full advantage of their 4 angles.
Don, in the post-game press conference, I asked Kirk, since now he's done this for 4 games and he's part of one of the biggest subjects in Caleb in the nation with college football right now. I asked Kirk about the Eric Dickerson comparison because we've talked about it on the show, and Kirk he didn't really answer it. He just kind of had fun with it. I think he was sort of making fun of me for asking that question, but he still had fun with it. But we've talked about it before. He's deceptively fast and he's tall and he runs upright, but he just seems to take really good angles and know when to burst.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. I would be curious. You do see some of these games on TV. Typically, it's the game of the week, maybe, mm-hmm. where certain networks might even be measuring a guy's speed in terms of miles per hour. You've seen that.
Yeah,
maybe
I've seen that, yeah.
NFL games maybe where they show that.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I've seen it in college games too, but maybe not. Maybe it's just NFL. Anyway, I am curious of what is Caleb's top end speed. It's a little bit faster than what you'd expect.
Yes.
And I don't know how accurately those readouts are, but you've seen them say this guy's running at 21 miles an hour, and it may sound like a simple misjudgment. They thought he was running at 19 miles an hour. He's running at 21.
It's a big difference.
Well, that's a difference in intercepted and not intercepted a ball carrier.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a little space, as we do in the open field. So that was a great thing to see. Just to give you an idea, too, you've heard me talk about explosive plays.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, here lately, that's been a problem for us with our defense.
Oh, without question.
Well, there were no super explosive plays on the part of Minnesota. They had 3 explosive plays. They had 2 plays, 28 yards, 1 play, 20 yards, but still that's less than 30.
And those were great plays they made.
They were.
Sometimes you just got to give credit to the other team. There was a great pass on one of them.
Rosmer made some real good throws.
He really did, and he made some really bad ones,
yes,
too.
He did.
But on the okay, go ahead, Don.
Yeah, you're right. But here's my point. We had 2 super explosive plays, a 40-yarder and a 33-yarder.
Mm-hmm.
We had 4 other explosive plays. We had a total of 6 plays that were 20 yards or more compared to their 3. And for that matter, they had no plays in excess of 30 yards, and we had 2. So we beat them on big plays also. And that's an important stat to have on our side. As you know, in general, we haven't done a great job of creating explosive plays on offense.
Yeah.
And I will admit, we need a higher percentage of explosive plays in our passing game. Right now, it's primarily doing well because of our running game and not because of our passing game.
Yeah, that's what I wrote about
Yep.
today. I don't want to rain on the post-Minnesota parade, but they got to get some vertical passing, or they're not going to be elite. This is going to.
They got 2 weeks.
I mean, Ohio
State's
State's
going
to load the box. They're going to say, "Yeah, we're out here single coverage, but we trust our guys." Don, as great as Caleb is, they can't get where they want to be being this one-dimensional, can they?
I don't think so. Here's a good example. Let's just talk about Michigan for a second. I'm talking about Michigan on Saturday.
Yeah, I did not see that.
Michigan made the decision, we're going to beat you, and we're not going to rely on the pass. What do you think of that? We're just going to run the ball down your throat, and we're going to play great defense, and we're going to beat you. And it worked against Southern Cal, but it barely worked. And for that matter, they didn't really have much offensively at all until they had one sustained drive that entire game.
Mm-hmm.
They won with some big plays. They had one sustained drive. That was the difference in the game. Let me look at Michigan right quick.
Well, in the Michigan
an
big
idea of the Michigan SC game. Michigan had 3 super explosive plays, all 3 of which were in the running game. Those 3 plays are worth 157 yards.
Did you see the one, Don, where it was Mullins, I think, not Edwards, but he broke one tackle, and then the other safety took a horrible angle and missed the tackle, and that was that.
He just waltzed in.
Well, he didn't get all the way to score, but then they got down into scoring position. Yeah, there was some. It was good offense, but it was also bad defense at the time too.
Yeah, and now that they've committed to Orgy, I don't know how they're going to change their identity. He's just not a very effective passer, and it's not all his fault, of course. They've lost, maybe their receivers aren't as good as they were a year ago. I'm pretty sure that's true also.
No, Don, isn't
their
that
tight end was out too?
And isn't that also the reason they were soundly defeated by Texas, which is elite?
Right. They got exposed against Texas. I made the comment a week or 2 ago. I said, wouldn't surprise me if Michigan loses 3 or 4 games.
No, I mean, and USC, to me, some of that, their lack of physicality on defense, I think, was exposed. And I'm to the point, and Don, maybe you'll disagree, but I think with Kirk in year 26 and Tom, 9 and 10 win seasons aren't what they used to be. Don't you think most fans are to the point where, I love Kirk, he's been great, but we got to make the playoff for me to be happy now that it's 12. Do you think that's fair, Don, or do you think that's asking too much?
No, I think it's fair because, let's face it, if we had a playoff system involving 12 teams over the last 40 years, we would have been in the playoffs any number of times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Coach Fry's 20 years plus Kirk's years.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So it's a very realistic goal to be one of 12.
I mean, I remember when 9 wins at Iowa, and I remember when you guys won 9 in '83. I mean, yeah, the Rose Bowl team was, historical. It won 8 games, but then the next year you guys won 9, and I'm like, wow, that, Tom, you remember that? That was just,
yes.
I mean, it was, but now it's not the same. But okay, well, I'm rambling. Let's get back to the game. It's another interesting thing I see happening is Jason. I mean, obviously Kamari was out. But Jason Patterson is becoming an option. He played early. How important, Don? Because you talk about it all the time. Caleb should never have to run with tired legs.
That's exactly right. And it wasn't just that he went in the game late. He was subbed at all the right times, and he was still affected. Any number of times he converted. I can think back to a lot of critical downs where Jazz made the first down yardage, and it was in part because of good blocking. But sometimes it was just exceptional effort on his part.
Well, Jazz came close to breaking a number of.
I had the
plays.
perfect angle of the one where all he had to do, the one time their safety came up and took a good angle and tack. If not, he's gone for 60, 70 yards.
Yep.
And they'll get Kamari back. No, I don't want to be a killjoy, but Don, what's going on with the vertical passing game? I mean, I know it's rarely been good lately, but. I mean, why is it there's just nothing there? Everything seems to be horizontal. Everything seems to be out in the flat. Why aren't they getting anything downfield?
Well, I think in part, we simply haven't taken many shots. I'm sure you'll agree with that.
But why?
Yeah, you're right, though. But why? Are they not open? Is Cade not? I mean, I see.
I think there are times for sure when Cade's looking downfield initially. Maybe it's sometimes hard to tell just looking at television. Is there a guy open or not? Do we have enough separation or not to make that throw? Obviously, if there's some doubt in his mind, he's going to lay the ball off for lesser yardage to a receiver that's at least able to catch it and advance it to some success. But I think part of it is, and you heard me talk about it before, part of the burden has to fall on the receivers.
True.
Because you got to find a way to get separation. You got to find a way to get into an open space. And against man coverage, that's especially difficult for us. But let's talk about this for a second. I got a phone call from a friend of mine at the half, and he was in panic mode. He said, what can we do to get this straight? I said, we got to dial up some man beaters. You've heard me talk about it before. That second quarter was dismal for us in so many ways. They figured out, you know what, let's rush 5. Let's rush 5 and see if that causes some problems. And for that matter, let's use some twist stunts up front to kind of give our guys a better chance to free up and to pressure Cade. And there were times for sure when that worked well. Here's a simple example that you heard me talk about. If you're going to have man beaters, you need to throw the ball to receivers that are having a chance to run away from their man. Simple example of that not working very well. Imagine a back just running a zip route. A zip route is a route simply into the flat, or a tight end running a zip route. He's running parallel line of scrimmage. He's only a few yards downfield. He's a second or third option in our normal passing game. But you've heard me say before, second or third option if it's zone coverage. But if it's man coverage, let's face it, you got less time to throw. So the general rule we have for quarterbacks versus man, you don't read it from top to bottom, you read it from bottom to top. In other words, if you got a receiver that's open early, you better get in the ball because you may run out of time. I'm sure that makes sense to you.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, and it, like you said, it's multiple players. Terrell Washington dropped that ball. That could have been a big play. It just seems like it just seems like there's a lack of trust in the vertical passing game.
The other thing, Caleb Brown only got 1 snap.
Yeah,
what's up with that?
Well, Don, is that simply explained just Jacob Gill's taking a lot of his minutes because they play the same?
Maybe
you can play him at the same time, but yeah, and Weechin is. Are you surprised though? Caleb Brown is not getting any touches at all.
Yeah, I don't have any idea. Of course, it might tie into Caleb's health. It might simply tie into the way he's practiced. We've talked about a player having to earn a level of trust with the coaches and with the quarterbacks, for that matter. Maybe that's part of the problem. I don't know.
Well,
But I
Jacob
will
Gill's
say
been pretty
this,
good,
you know,
too.
In that second quarter, we got a bigger dose of man coverage and some stats up front,
Mm-hmm.
and it obviously caused us a lot of problems. So when that friend called and said, he was in panic and said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We got to dial up some man beaters." Now we did that in the second half. Let me explain. Man beaters sometimes are not really exotic plays. It's just all about finding good matchups. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk about a good matchup. You remember the ball thrown to number 15, our freshman.
Van der Zee on the sideline?
Yeah.
He was an inside receiver, and he was matched up against the safety, as I recall.
Uh-huh.
That was a good matchup. The ball was thrown up for Van der Zee, and he went up and he got it.
Yeah,
6'4".
Yeah, no, that was a big catch.
That was an inside fade route to a receiver that wasn't matched up on a corner. He was matched up on a safety, or maybe it was a linebacker. I can't recall for sure. But it was a better matchup. That's the point.
Yes.
And it was, what was the gain on that? Maybe 18 yards or something like that?
18 or 19. And, Don, what did you think?
Yeah, most importantly, it was a third down play. Let me find it right quick.
And Cade did his part. I mean, that was maybe one of Cade's better throws, or at least it. But, Don, what did you think about in the opening drive, the right away, the play to Ostrenga, you know, where they went against the way, you know, he went crossfield.
So that second half?
Yeah, and they do that a lot. It's amazing how the opponent never seems
that little rollout.
Where the offensive linemen go left, the quarterback or the tight end goes.
Let's talk about both those plays. First off, Reese's play was third down and 6.
Okay.
Third down and 6. We throw inside fade to RBZ, as they call him.
Yep.
18 yards on that play.
Yep.
And that was man free.
Yeah, that was.
So we had a one-on-one matchup. It was a good matchup for us in terms of height, especially in terms of height.
Yeah.
And Reese did a good job of high pointing the ball, and it was a nice catch, and we moved the chains. Now, here's another example, the one you're talking about. Let me find it here.
It seems to work all the time when they do this little underneath route with the tight end, where he waits and kind of waits for the line to go one way and he goes the other.
Yeah. Shoot, I can't find it now.
Might have been the first or second play.
I
think it was the first play of the third quarter.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Here's why that's such a good play. It complements our best running play.
Yeah.
Okay? And that particular play, we fake left and we roll right.
Yep.
And typically that wingback, that tight end that's lined up on the left side, when we run that play, when we run his own play to the left, he typically blocks back across the formation to block the end man on the line of scrimmage. That's a good way of sealing the backside. You know, it's for him to come across the formation.
Uh-huh.
Just realize if we're gonna run to the left, our linemen are basically scooping to the left, and then we're blocking back with the tight end across the formation. Well, it sets up so well the fact that we might be faking that run, running naked with our quarterback, and now here comes the tight end across the formation.
Wide open.
And just think about the guy he's beating. The guy that's manned up on him, that's lined up on the other side of the ball. Mm-hmm. We're going to throw it away from the man that was manned up, right?
Yeah.
So that guy's conflicted. He's got man coverage, but it also looks like here comes another running play.
Yeah,
and so he gets frozen in space, and now we got him outflanked, and now the race is on. Short throw, high percentage throw, gain of 20, as I recall, maybe, or I don't know what we gained. 18,
yeah, it was significant.
Solid.
It just
seemed, I think that back, we did gain 20 on that play.
Yeah, and it just seemed to kind of light them up for the. Because remember how they left that field at halftime.
Well, Cade McNamara said it was like we were shot out of a slingshot,
and it was also a third of his passing yards.
Yeah.
I mean, he threw
those two incredible.
Those two plays we just went over, Don. That was 2/3 of McNamara's passing yards. He had 62 passing yards.
Those were both man beaters too.
Yeah, and they were they were good calls, and it was impressive. I thought the offensive line. I wanted to ask you some interesting interview with Mason Richmond afterwards. I actually got it on, but I asked him how fun is it to block for Caleb when he's in a zone like this, and he goes, "Oh, it's awesome, it's awesome." But then he said, but he's got to cut back on the trash talking. He just needs to get back into the huddle. And see, it's hard to tell if guys are talking trash in football because their faces are hidden by the helmets. But and he wasn't criticizing him, but he was providing leadership. And the way I look at it, I'm like, more power to him. But I also wonder if that's just a little bit of what Caleb is and that helps motivate him, and maybe those two can reach a compromise. But I kind of respected Richmond for saying in a classy way, you got to cut back on the trash talk, and we don't. Basically, he's saying we don't need that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with Richmond. I don't think you get anything by it. At some point, of course, it may kind of take you off your game. You get caught up. In the worst case scenario, of course, you get a penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. At some point, you might get penalized for it. So there's really nothing to be gained by it. I like to say it this way: let your shoulder pads speak for you. Don't go with words, go with action.
Yeah.
And Caleb does a good job of letting the shoulder pads speak. So just laugh at them. Just smile at them and move on.
What was interesting is I never imagined that would be his answer. I noticed, Tom, you're at the games. Caleb's very emotional.
He is.
He likes to.
But that's part of what makes him go.
But I think that's part. So yeah, they got to figure out a compromise. It was just interesting that Richmond would bring that up with that unsolicited, and it was his way of seemed to be saying, hey, cut back on this. It's great, man. This is great. We got to keep it up. But no, it was just an interesting moment. And I think, Don, you talked so much about veteran leaders. I think that's what we were seeing there.
Yeah, let's not forget, one of the reasons that things go our way more often than what people like, our opponents, is simply we're always the least penalized team on the field.
It's a very good point. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, they made a comment. After 3 games, we were leading the nation in fewest penalties.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to be proud of because that shows that you're a disciplined football team.
Kirk always brings it up in games, too. In the postgame, he'll make sure to mention, hey, if they did, that's his style of ball. Own tempo, move, stay ahead of the change, control. I mean, their time of possession is over 33 minutes per game right now, Don.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice when you can stay on the field and give your defense a rest. Let's face it, that was a huge problem for us last year. I'm thinking back to the Big Ten championship game. Our defense simply got worn out. They were out there too long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it does become a problem. So the offense needs to be able to stay on the field. We're doing a much better job of that in general than we have in recent years. And, of course, the defense understands part of that's on us. We have to do a good job on third down to get off the field. Mm-hmm. And, we're getting pretty good results in that regard, too.
Thinking back to the last couple of years offensively, when we were in a lot of the key categories, really one of the worst offensive team in the country, and now 4 games into this season, we got the leading rusher in America. I mean,
and averaging 250 a game.
Isn't that just incredible?
They've never averaged 200
with
a game.
no passing game.
They've never averaged 200 a game under Kirk rushing.
No.
Yeah, but let's not forget, it is critical that we shore up our passing game because you've heard me say one way to beat a good team is to make them play left-handed.
Yes, and I think
Tom,
Tom realizes that, and that's obviously what I wrote about today. Yeah, they have to get this vertical passing game going because I don't think they're going to beat a team. And if you're Ohio State, Don, what's your strategy coming into the Iowa game?
Well, I didn't see a whole lot of that Saturday game with Ohio State. I did see some of it.
Well, I was told they played horribly, and then I saw
they didn't play that great.
Especially, they were moving the ball up and down the field. I guess the thing that gives me hope, I thought maybe Ohio State would be different this year, or maybe even last year they were a little bit different than they had been. And all I'm saying is they simply, in the past, outscored you. They weren't that good on defense. I'm talking 2, 3, 4 years ago. But their offense was so good that they'd simply outscore you. Maybe that's not going to work as well for them, although their offense still looks very, very good. But it appears that they still have some issues on defense. Marshall moved the ball against them pretty well.
At least for the first half. I know. I think wasn't the final score 48? Wasn't the final score 48-7?
I believe it was. And Ohio State just had so many explosive plays that their athletic level was so much higher.
So Don, do you think Iowa can go in there without throwing the ball though and stay ahead of the change, or do you think they're good enough to physically handle this Ohio State team at the line of scrimmage? Because I don't think I'm with Don though. I don't think this is a great Ohio State defense, but. Do you think Iowa can do that without any threat of passing?
I hate to try to do it that way.
Yeah.
Because again, you're saying, okay, we're going to beat you by playing left-handed. Well, maybe we're not that good with our left hand. You know, it's hard. It's hard to be one-dimensional and win. That's Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, Michigan was. My God, the Michigan fans were thinking we're going to lose to SC, and I was really conflicted in a way. I didn't want SC to come in to the Big Ten and win their first big showdown.
Nor did I,
game.
but I thought they were going to.
Yeah, I mean, it
So
looked
did
like
most
it.
everybody else.
They clearly had a typical West Coast team. You know, they threw the ball well and made plays here and there, but lucky for Michigan, Michigan still won the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to take some pressure off your run game because people are going to outnumber you time after time with the run game, and you got to make them pay. You got to scare them out of being able to load the box against you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have man beaters to do it, and I'm sure. I mean, we had some good examples in the second half. You know, our naked, and we came back and ran the naked again for another 8 yards too. So we didn't forget about it. That's one thing I appreciate about Tim is he doesn't forget. Sometimes I wish I had a dollar every time Bill Brazier said after the game. He said, "Thank God they didn't come back to that," and we didn't have a good answer. One of the things Coach Farr always wanted to know at halftime: tell me the plays that have been working because we can't get away from them.
Sure.
We have to make them show us that they.
Have
adjusted to be able to defend it.
Like
you've heard him say, "Milk it till it's dry," right? You've heard that expression.
Cedric Shaw, Michigan, 1995, 42 for 250.
Yeah, so make them pay, and as soon as they demonstrate that they can take that away, that's fine. We know what our next play is too. We're still doing a good job of staying one step ahead of you.
Don, I remember that post-game press conference. Hayden said. When we talked about, Cedric, that was one of the greatest performances. A ton of 7, 8, 5, 4, 9-yard runs. And Hayden said, I think he even used the term, you milk it dry. He says it just kept working, and Cedric was fine. He's in great shape. I mean, obviously, you were there. You remember that game. It's one of the greatest individual performances I've seen.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Let me brag on our play calling in other ways, too. Second half, I don't believe we saw our counter in the first half. I believe the first time we ran it, it was good for 40 yards.
Yeah, you're right. That's good point. And great blocking, great patience by Caleb.
Yeah, and maybe I missed one, but I don't believe there was one in the first half. There was another game where we ran our counter in the second half for big yardage, too. I can't remember who it was against. It was one of our early opponents, maybe Illinois State. But we've just done such a good job. Here's another example. Just talking about keeping the other team off balance. We hadn't run a fly sweep in the first half. Second half, we ran it for 9 yards.
Yeah.
They hadn't seen fly sweep. Defenses typically, if you haven't shown them a play, the first time you run it, typically it works, especially if it involves just a little bit of deception. We motion people across the backfield and don't hand them the ball. But in the second half, we did. And it was worth 9 yards, and we had a non-traditional ball carrier. We had Gill carrying the ball for 9.
I mean, I think with Ohio State, obviously, they're great in every area. I get it, but they always seem to be better at finesse than strength, especially on offense, of course. But it seems like with defense too, they're great skill space guy, but maybe at the line of scrimmage they're not. So I mean, if the Iowa offensive line can come out, can pass block, I mean. If they get, let's say they throw for 150, that gives them a chance. One concern I have, Don, and maybe I'm over. I don't think McNamara is a threat to run at all. Do you, Tom?
Sure hasn't shown it, has he?
And do you think teams are starting to pick that up right now, or is it too early? Because he just doesn't seem like he wants to run at all.
Well, if Cade's in the game, let's talk about third and long.
Yeah.
If Cade's in the game on third and long. Some of these teams, one of our favorite defenses in third and long when we're playing defense is 2-man. We like to go 500-man and play safeties in the back end and still play games with our front four, twist games, things like that to get pressure. And that works pretty well because we have all 5 receivers covered early in the play, and then we have the security of 2 high safeties in the back end. That works pretty well for us. Well, one way to counter that, of course, is to run the quarterback because nobody's manned up on a quarterback, right? So just imagine we go empty. There's no back in the backfield, but all 5 defenders on our 5 receivers, they're all out of the box now, right? They have to be.
Yeah.
That leaves a light box. There's only 5. If you've got 2 safeties playing in the back and you got 5 guys manned up, that's 7 players. That only leaves 4. You got 4 guys, and you got 5 blockers up front. So, and that's assuming you go empty. The other way you can do it is to have a back in the backfield and use him as a lead blocker on Q draw again. So the teams that have a quarterback that can run, Q draw is a good play because they didn't realize that you might use the running back as a blocker. You follow me?
Yeah, no,
that's a way to outnumber them.
Exactly,
But
and I remember
have a quarterback that you're comfortable running. I'm saying even if Chase not a great runner, the element of surprise on 3rd down, if it is 2-man, it's a good play because we have a chance to make the box light, let our linemen do their thing, and then let Chase run to a hole that's invariably probably going to be there.
I'm just going back to what
it might not be there is twist games up front. If they're a twist team, you might be a little nervous about running a Q draw because you got to sort out the stunt, to make sure you come up with a good running line. But coming out of the backfield, he should have a chance to find a running lane then too.
I'm just going back to 2021 when I remember him at Michigan when he was healthy. He wasn't Lamar Jackson, but he could run.
He could.
He could move, and
he did.
If there was time where he needed to put the ball down and go for fit, he would, and he would take the pound. Now that just doesn't seem like it's much of an option, and I think defenses are starting to realize
it's
that.
like he's not looking for it either.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, we'll see. Ohio State is okay. You got an extra week to prepare. They do a lot of. I mean, Kirk. I think he even says he usually gives them at least 1 or 2 days off. How big were bye weeks? Like, I mean, I think there's just everyone goes off to Vegas for 3 days or whatever, right? but Don, like, what? I mean, bye weeks. Like, what would you do on a bye week? I mean, would you actually get away from the game for a day, or could you afford to?
Well, yeah, I'm sure we're going to give them a little extra time to recharge. They need it. After 4 games, they're a little bit banged up, and obviously. One aspect of our play that's in pretty good shape is our run game.
Yeah.
So obviously this off week, my guess is there'll be a little extra emphasis on improving our passing game. That doesn't involve a lot of contact, of course. I think right now, if I had to assign a grade to our O-line, I'd probably give them a higher grade in general for their run blocking than their pass blocking.
I think that's
so that's an area where we can improve, of course, is to give a little extra attention to our pass protection. Just improve on our individual ability to handle pass rush. Maybe a little extra time there, and obviously the extra time also could go to our receivers and our quarterbacks to get our routes timed up better, so that we can win those difficult battles that we face. And clearly, we need to spend some time just being sure we can gain some confidence with how we can execute against man coverage. It may not show up that much against Ohio State, but in general, you've got to be able to defeat it when it shows up. Maybe teams play a lot of zone. That's fine. It's different to attack zone. In zone, you're looking to find the soft spots in the zone coverage. It's not so much about speed and quickness or about sharp cuts or change of direction. It's just about recognizing where the holes are in the coverage and settling into those holes. So it's a different exercise. It's more of a mental exercise to find the holes in zone coverage versus the man coverage. Of course, it's more of a physical exercise. I gotta master my ability to make sharp cuts. And you've heard me talk about sharp cuts, change of direction. You've got to be able to be comfortable throwing the ball against tight coverage because, let's face it, if they're manned up on you, they're giving chase. They're probably not too far away from the ball, from the pass receiver. So you got to be able to throw with accuracy. Now we talk about being sure to remind the receivers, listen, you make your sharp cut, don't drift down the field. Don't give that defender any kind of chance to undercut you. Keep him on your backside. If you have to come back toward the line of scrimmage, do it. But don't forget, I will promise you, we're going to put the ball out in front of you. You're going to have to extend for that ball because we're not going to throw it the least bit behind you because that's where the defender is. these are just finer points of attacking man coverage. I'm sure those are the kind of things we're going to work on. And I say that, maybe Ohio State's not even going to play much man. But we better be prepared for that possibility because it's coming somewhere down the road. I can promise you somebody's going to do it to us.
Yeah, and one of the interesting storylines, of course, Caleb Johnson is from Ohio State, and I don't believe remember, Caleb was previously committed to Cal. Yeah, and I don't think Ohio State recruited him much, and I'm guessing Caleb's the kind of guy that's going to use that as motivation. I mean, little things like that. But that's an interesting storyline. He is from Hamilton, Ohio, hometown of Chris Kingsbury. And, Don, when you look at what he's done so far, I mean, I've had people asking me right now, is this his last year at Iowa? I mean, if he continues to do this, yes. I mean, as a running back, but I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves. But, Don, he's showing he's an NFL back, isn't he?
It's always interesting to wonder what the pro scouts think of guys. Of course, I used to be the pro liaison when I was at Iowa, and talk to the pro scouts all the time. In general, when they look at guys coming out early, they look at them with a skeptical eye. They want to have a good reason to take a guy that's young, because let's face it, if you're going to draft a guy high, he better not be a bust. He better be a guy that comes through. You don't want to waste high draft picks. So I'm just thinking for a second about how a pro scout might see Caleb. And, of course, they're always looking for reasons to criticize. One of the things they would say is, I don't like his pad level. He runs with his pads too high. Well, he's a taller guy. It's hard for him not to run with higher pads. Same problem for Eric Dickerson, but last time I checked, he had a pretty good NFL career, too.
He did.
He sure did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, but they're gonna want Caleb to demonstrate. He's demonstrated this year more physicality than he ever shown before.
Mm-hmm.
One of the complaints last year, you've heard me say it even. Caleb might put up big numbers one weekend and not do so well the next. But he's showing more consistency this year. He is more determined as a runner. He's a more physical runner. He's trying to carry his pads lower. But, that kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. He's getting excellent coaching from the Liddell-Bats, who played, I believe, 9 years in the NFL.
Yep.
And you can bet Liddell's reminding him, listen, you want to play on Sunday, you got to figure out a way to even improve your game over what it already is. Don't be satisfied. You're putting up good numbers, but I promise you there are going to be some defenders that are going to show up either this year or next year. If you're playing on Sunday next year, I guarantee those guys are going to force you to become a better runner than what you are right now in college. Because the next challenge is always greater than the last. When you're talking about college versus pro. So Caleb still has things to work on. I don't know. What in the end, of course, it's really hard to. I'll just say it this way. 4 games doesn't tell me enough yet.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the real challenge is to do it like Sean Green did it.
That's kind of how Kirk said after the game, just when he was asked about, he's ahead on a record-breaking pace. Kirk's like, well, Sean did it for 13, if you include.
And Sean's first 4 games,
they
were over 100, but they weren't like Caleb's.
No, and the team struggled early with Sean. They finished strong. Remember, that team was 3-3 at one point, ended up going 9-4. Thing is, though, if this team goes 9-4, it's not going to be as well received as that team because that team went 9-4 after having gone. The year before was the Jake Christensen year when they did 6-6. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But no, it's been a lot of fun watching him emerge like this. And you're right, though, Don. Liddell Betts has done a great job. Let's look at the Big Ten a little bit. Anything surprise you right now as we're now in conference play, besides Caleb Johnson lead the nation maybe in rushing?
Indiana, Illinois, both?
Yeah, let's talk about Brett Bielema and the Fighting Bielemas.
Yeah, absolutely. I made this observation on Friday night. I said, really interesting finish to this game, and that much ballyhooed freshman quarterback, lo and behold, when the game's on the line, he looked like a freshman.
He did, and he took blame afterwards, too. I give him credit, but, man, does he have an arm?
He does.
Yeah, he's still, I'm still afraid of how well he might be playing in November. But the bottom line, when the pressure was on, he looked a little vulnerable. You might recall it was 24-24. He had a receiver, well-conceived play, a receiver open downfield.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
he just overthrew him.
Overthrew him.
Yeah.
And then they missed the field goal, and now we're going into overtime, and of course he spit the bit in overtime too. The quarterback didn't handle overtime well, and
he didn't.
And
nor did the
I
line.
give so much credit. I wasn't a great fan of Illinois quarterback really until that Nebraska
I am
game.
now.
Yeah, you're right,
I was
Don.
very impressed with how he played. He played with great poise throughout.
He sure did.
Didn't they take 2 plays to score in overtime, and then Nebraska was facing a 3rd and 42?
Yes.
Yeah, it really just totally spun out of control on him. But it all started with failure to execute in the fourth quarter. They hit the play action pass. I believe it was a play action because the guy's running free down the field, and it was a receiver that's not that fast. It was a tight end, as I recall. But still, you've heard me say before, one of the greatest sins in quarterbacking is overthrowing a receiver that's open deep.
Yeah.
You recognize it, he's wide open. Put a little extra air under it. If he has to slow up for it, it's still a big play. But for God's sake, don't overthrow it. And you got to realize that. And that was an unforced error. It was a play that really ultimately cost them the game. I think if they had scored then, they'd have won the game.
What was so fun was I was cheering for Illinois, which was kind of weird to cheer for because of Brett. I watched that game from start to finish. No Rockford Files, ain't nothing. It was Illinois, Nebraska football. It was a fun game to watch. Did you? I assume you watched it pretty much from start to. Didn't you enjoy the game, Don? I just enjoyed the game.
I did, and I texted Brett after the game. I'll tell you exactly what I said to him. I don't have it in front of me, but I congratulated him on a difficult win. And I said, and for the record, Brett, I like your play caller. Because he did a great job of mixing run and pass.
Yeah, he did. I like their team, Don.
Go ahead.
No, I like their team. They seem to have good players at most positions.
Yeah, the bottom line, 85,000 Nebraska fans didn't seem to bother them too much.
You're right.
And the fans, they're sophisticated fans just like ours are. And so they know when to be loud. But it didn't seem to really phase Illinois. They were very good under duress of the game. And they, it all starts, of course, with just staying in the game. Stay in the game. Obviously, at some point, the home team gets a little bit nervous. I'm assuming that Nebraska was a slight favorite going in. I don't know what the betting line was.
I believe they were.
They expected to win that game. You can bet on it.
Yeah.
There was a point in the first half where Brett went for it on 4th and, I don't know, 4.
I remember.
And I kind of questioned that at the time, and they didn't make it, and it did,
right.
And Nebraska did make them pay for it. So do you think that was, in retrospect, a mistake, or is that just who he is? He's just aggressive.
I think that was a mistake. And who knows, Brett went for it, but maybe his OC said, let's go for it. Who knows how the conversation went. I do know that Brett did respond. He said, I think you're right. Our offensive coordinator is a very good coach. That's how he put it. And I thought the guy did a nice job of keeping Nebraska off balance. Really good blend of run and pass.
Yeah.
They were effective with both, in part because it was pretty even between run plays and pass plays.
And the other thing Illinois, that Pat Bryant, they have good receivers. And that McCray, that running back, the big guy, he's been around forever. They've just, like you call it, man beaters. They have man beaters. Yeah,
I'm also proud of Thaddeus Ward. He's Brett's assistant head coach, and he was an assistant with me at Western Illinois.
Oh, cool.
Excellent coach. I did find this out. Matt Rule wanted Thaddeus on his staff, and Thaddeus turned down more money to go to Illinois than he would have made it at Nebraska. He might not appreciate me putting that out, so don't share it with anybody. But the good thing about it, Thaddeus is the right kind of coach.
Sure.
He had reasons to be at Illinois. He wanted to go to Illinois for reasons. He coached at Illinois before. His family was familiar with Champaign. I'm sure the kids have friends in town. He was gone for a year or two, I think, or 3. And then he decided, we're going to move back to Champaign because what I know about Brett Bielema, it's all good. And I'm not just going to chase money. You know, he's making plenty of money in Illinois, I'm sure. But I do know it was more money. It turned out more money to stay in Illinois than to go to Nebraska.
Well, that says a lot about Brett. Says a lot about Illinois, Champaign.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, it's just a neat story. I was really pulling for him. And anything else in the Big? I mean, obviously, I did not expect Michigan to beat USC. Anything else that stands out to you right now in the Big Ten? Or got to ask you, Don.
I'm impressed. Let me brag on somebody you wouldn't expect me to be able to brag on. That's UCLA. I was surprised at UCLA. Now I realize LSU fans aren't entirely happy with LSU right now either.
When are they?
I really expected, after seeing what Indiana did to them in the Rose Bowl, I thought this might get ugly in Death Valley. Well, they hung in there just fine. Maybe it was a day game. It was a day game.
It was a day game. Yeah, it started very early.
That probably helped. Yeah. Because what you don't want to do is play LSU at night in Baton Rouge. That's not good because they've been tailgating all day.
The team or the fans?
It's a loud vocal crowd. And as Nick Saban told me before our game, he said, listen, those people behind your bench, he said, don't hesitate to call security on them because I promise you they're going to be out of line. And so I thank Nick for being honest and warning us about some of those fans right there behind the bench. And I don't know if we called for security or not. I didn't call for security, but I would imagine somebody on our staff might have, you know, if they were entirely out of line. You expect, of course, to be verbally abused when you go on the road. Yeah. As long as you're not physically abused, as long as you're not getting hit with stuff from the seats, I guess that's okay. They can yell at you all they want.
It is amazing, though, how worked up some fans get. I mean, Tom, I know you're not like that at games.
I actually am not.
Yeah. My point was, it impressed me that UCLA didn't just go in there and just
you're right.
fall apart.
The first half was pretty competitive. I mean, it was a decent game. I mean, like I look at Michigan State right now. I'm not sure what to read on them. Wisconsin, to me, Don. I mean, I think they're
not very good.
They're just not very good. They're losing the quarterback. Certainly,
as I understand it, their quarterback is out for the year.
He's out for the year.
Yes, he is.
He's out for the year.
Yeah, I was talking to a good Iowa fan just last night who lives in Wisconsin, and of course he knows a lot about Wisconsin. And I just asked him, I said, how good's the backup? And he said, Coach, I don't think he's very good. He said he's undersized.
He is undersized.
We played against him last year.
Yes, and he wasn't very good.
It was an easy decision for them to choose their starter. And now that starter's out for the year. So that was the guy from, maybe transferred from Miami.
Yes, Van Dyke. Van Dyke, he transferred from Miami. And Tom and I, before he got hurt, we weren't ripping him. I just not that impressed with him.
No, but compare Locke, I think his name's Locke, playing now.
Braden Locke.
Yeah, and we played against him last year, and he just didn't do much.
No, and so it's going to be interesting to see what goes on up there. I mean,
and they get to come to Kenny again, so that's all good too.
And then, of course, you brought up Washington lost to Washington State 2 weeks ago and what have you. So, I mean, do you think it's Ohio State is clearly above everybody? Or where are you with Ohio State right now? I hear a lot of the national, they're by far the most talented team. Are they more talented than Texas and Georgia and Alabama, Don?
I would, head-to-head on a neutral field, I'd still predict Texas would beat them.
Okay.
I haven't seen Alabama. I didn't really see much of that game at all because I forget what other game I was. Maybe that was the same day that Texas was playing Michigan. I can't remember. But anyway, I'm impressed with Texas. Ohio State hadn't really been tested yet. I say that. There was one game that was closer than what people expected. I can't remember which one it was. Played in the shoe, of course. But still, in general, Ohio State's looked a little bit suspect on defense. You know, people have moved the ball against them. Mm-hmm. But they've looked like they always look on offense. They're more explosive than just about any team you'll find. Chip Kelly, I think, is a good play caller. I don't know that he's any better than Ryan Day, honestly, because I always thought Ryan Day was a good play caller. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's it. Maybe Ryan Day's still calling some of the plays. I don't know, but it'll be a challenge. But here's the beauty of going to the big house. Going to the shoe. If you go to the shoe and you and you just make it a one-score game for a long time, then that's when people get anxious. People in the seats get anxious, and those guys dressed in red on the sidelines, they get anxious too. I guess they call it crimson, not red, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what we got to do. We just got to play well, not beat ourselves, and keep it a one-score game, hopefully until the end of the game. And then by the time the game ends, we find a way to move ahead of them. I wouldn't mind it being a one-score game with us having the lead, too. That'd be okay.
That'd be even better.
I'd like that even more, yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't want to be down by more than one score.
Here's
And
Ohio.
when I say one score, I'm not talking field goal. I'm talking touchdown.
Okay, Ohio State. They play. They're at Michigan State this weekend. So, but they beat Akron 52-6 in the season opener. They beat Western Michigan 56-0 in the second game. Then they had a bye week on the 14th, and this past week they beat Marshall 49-14.
So I think you were right. They haven't been tested. I think.
Oh yeah, they have not been tested by any means. No. And like Don said, in the first half, Marshall was.
You said it's at Michigan State this week?
Yes.
They're at Michigan State.
Well, that's a game they at least got to take somewhat seriously because Michigan State's. If you're a Michigan State fan, you got to be pretty happy with the way the season started.
Without question, yeah. Yeah, I mean that win at Maryland was big on the road that. Your first year coach winning that. So I mean,
I didn't think they beat Maryland, and I don't even know who else they played. I know they've had, like everyone, they've had a couple of games not so difficult. But what's their record now?
They are 3-1,
aren't they?
No, I don't think they've lost. Here, let me look it up. You and Don keep talking.
So okay, we've got 2 weeks to sharpen up our passing game. What can they do? What can we honestly expect improvement-wise in the passing game in the next 2 weeks?
Well, I think you should very definitely expect some wrinkles that you haven't seen before. My guess is that's what the offense is going to do. The beauty of having the off week, this week, of course, maybe with the players themselves, maybe you just work on fundamental football. Maybe you don't require quite so much time to practice. Maybe, on the other hand, it depends on how you look at it. Maybe you go ahead and install some of the game plan versus Ohio State to give the players a sense. We're working on Ohio State, and they're not working on us. But whether they're actually practicing for Ohio State or not, I will guarantee you those coaches this week are going to be game planning for Ohio State. And that gives us a distinct advantage. You know, they're not working on us. They're working on Michigan State. Yes. We have a chance to have maybe a more comprehensive game plan for them than they have for us, simply because we have more time to get it done.
Is there something that is having Caleb Brown on the team, or is there? Will the coaching staff be picking his brain to get any ideas about what to expect from the Ohio State offense?
Well, I don't doubt at all that they would be curious about his input, because let's face it, he knows a lot about their offense. I say their offense. Their offense has probably changed a little bit because of Chip Kelly. Mm-hmm. But let's face it, they had a great offense before Chip Kelly arrived.
Yeah.
So a lot of those concepts are not going to go away. You can bet on that, because Brian Day's the head coach, not Chip Kelly. So the stuff they've done that's been good to them in recent years, they're going to continue to do that. And I don't doubt that Caleb would be able to give us a little bit of insight into how it's taught and how it's coached, and that might be helpful. Let's not forget that another weapon that might show up for that game is a guy that has played in the shoe any number of times, and that's Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb Brown, I'm sure nothing would please him more than to have a bigger role in the Ohio State game than what he's had up until now.
No, you're right about that. And Tom, you were right. Michigan State is 3-1. They beat Florida Atlantic 16-10 in the season opener. I remember they did not look good. I watched some of that game. But then they won at Maryland 27-24. Then they beat Prairie View 40-0. But this past weekend, it says they got beat by Boston College 23-19. Boston College is pretty good. I've watched them this year.
Yeah, I believe they're in the top 25.
Yeah, they're a good team. So Michigan State, they're 3-1.
They're better than I thought.
They're better than I thought, and so I mean, you're right, Don. Ohio State's going to have to. It's a Big Ten game on the road. They're going to have to be very serious.
Yeah, they haven't been on the road yet either, and so it'll be their first road game, and they didn't expect that Michigan State would beat Maryland. I bet they felt like I did. At Maryland, I thought Maryland would win.
I know it's still early, but are you sold on Indiana?
Well, I'm pretty sold on them, but here's the thing I noticed from I don't know much about Charlotte at all, but I was impressed that Charlotte was moving the ball against them a little bit, and even going back, of course I've done all the quality control stuff for the first 6 Big Ten games. There've been 6 played now, two of which are Indiana. Is that right? No, just one.
Well, Indiana played UCLA. I think just one.
Yeah.
UCLA. Yeah, just looking back at that game, they were much better in the red zone than UCLA. They beat them in a lot of areas. It was a beatdown, really,
it was.
in so many ways. But I will say this: Charlotte moved the ball to give us anybody that's got to play Indiana sometime soon to give you a little bit of encouragement. Charlotte moved the ball on them. They didn't score as many points, maybe, but they at least moved the ball. I think their numbers were pretty good, but IU had good numbers against UCLA, and I didn't expect that coming. But since then, I think Indiana's good, but they didn't just kill them with big plays. Against UCLA, they had 4 explosive plays. UCLA had 3, but they were better in the red zone. They're just a very sound football team, it looked like. They didn't make many mistakes. A pretty good blend of run and pass. A good complementary offense.
Yeah.
I thought they could run and throw with pretty good effectiveness. But those coaches do know what they're doing. You can tell they've certainly gained the confidence of the players already. Of course, they brought in a number of players with them. And let's not forget, that reminds me, how about this for a score that just shocked the heck out of me? How about James Madison putting up 70?
Yes.
We were listening to it on the radio driving up to Minneapolis.
Yes, I was amazed by that.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Yeah. And, of course, let's not forget that our Indiana coach came from James Madison and took some players with him.
He did.
Took a
But
bunch of them with him.
they still got other good players. Obviously, they're going to be a threat to win the FCS title this year. They're good.
Don, before we wrap, and then Buffalo beat Northern Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Northern Illinois won at Notre Dame. Well, you saw that score, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and it didn't shock me. I'll tell you why. Well, first off, of course, as Hayden would say, after Northern knocked off Notre Dame, he would say, "Okay, you guys understand. You got be sure you don't get a case of the big head. That counts as one win. We still have to be ready to play next week against Buffalo." Wasn't it 1 week later after beating Notre Dame? Or was it 2?
I think it was 2, but don't quote me.
so.
Is it 2? Okay. But anyway, you get my drift.
Yes.
We know that Buffalo doesn't have the same recruiting ability of Notre Dame, but I do know Pete Limbo really well, their coach. I've coached against him. He's an excellent coach. Didn't surprise me that they had a good plan for Northern. It surprised me that they pulled it off, of course. But I knew he would have a good plan and he would have ready to play. And Buffalo's, they have a lot of pride too. We were bowl eligible at Buffalo in year 3, and they've won some games since. And again, Pete's an old FCS coach that had a lot of success. I know him really well. We were on the NCAA FCS coaching committee together, and so he's an excellent coach. And it didn't surprise me that he's getting good results.
So Don, does it really snow in Buffalo as much as they say, being that you lived there for a while?
It's funny you mention that because it's so different. There's a thing called lake effect snow,
Yes.
as you know.
I know all about it. Yep, Michigan.
Yeah. Well, lake effect snow really hits what they call the Southtown area. That's where the Bills play.
Okay.
Their stadium is south of Buffalo. They get a ton of snow down there. The University of Buffalo is north and east of downtown Buffalo. And even though we're only half an hour away from the Buffalo Bills, they might get twice as much snow as we do.
Interesting.
There are people that pay extra money to live in the South Towns just because they like to go cross-country skiing and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I never developed a love for doing that in the middle of the winter. So I was more than happy to live in Amherst, which is where New Bay is, and they get about half as much snow. So they might get 60 inches of snow a year. That sounds like a lot, but that's compared to 120.
Yeah, no.
Just 30 miles away, or less than 30 miles away, 20 miles away.
Okay. Well, they sometimes get 3 feet of snow in a snowstorm. That's how do you do that? How do you survive that?
I remember one time when I had left, I had moved to Yukon, and Lisa was still in Buffalo, and she was coming over for the weekend, but we had one of those lake effect snows, and so she had to go up along the northern route. You couldn't just go across through Syracuse, whatever that, the interstate from Buffalo to Syracuse, whatever that's called. Can't remember. She had to go north of all that up toward Lake Superior until she got over on the same. You got over, north of Syracuse, and then was able to go south because the interstate between Buffalo and Syracuse was in 2 feet of snow. You didn't want to try that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no,
that's how localized the snow can be there, though. I remember one time my father-in-law called and he said, "I see you're getting a really heavy snowfall." And I said, "No, that's not true, Jack. You're watching the Buffalo Bills play, and that's 20 miles away. And the South Towns are getting a lot of snow. We don't have any snow at all."
I would never have imagined
it could be that different. And the reason simply is lake effect doesn't hit Amherst, New York, because that's up along the Niagara River. There's a river between the two Great Lakes. And the river, of course, doesn't have any lake effect snow associated with it because it's no wider than the Mississippi.
Interesting.
Not as wide as the Mississippi. So the lake effect comes off of Lake Erie.
Oh, that is very interesting. I never would have realized that. You learn something every day.
Yeah,
Well,
it really does pile up snow, though. You'll have snow coming down. It seems like it's like 6 inches an hour sometimes.
Well, we learn
maybe not that much, but at least 3 or 4 inches per hour.
Well, every show we have with you, Don, we learn a lot about football, and today weather. I found that interesting. Great stuff. We'll do this again, even though no game.
Oh, sure. It'll be fun.
You're good to go again next Monday. Well, we can talk about all the other games besides Iowa. Oh, and of course, Iowa State's having the better Iowa State does this year, Iowa fans, the better that is for Iowa. Tom, you realize that, don't you?
Oh, sure.
That's a big fact.
Assuming we do well.
Yeah, assuming Iowa does well, and the better Iowa State, that'll help Iowa in the long run, won't it, Don?
Absolutely true. Let's face it. You heard some announcers on the weekend say, "Well, if Iowa can just, even if they lose to Ohio State, if it's just a competitive game, maybe if they finish 10-2, that'll be good enough to be one of those 12 playoff teams." I would suspect it will be, but part of that will hinge on how Iowa State plays out their season.
Yes,
obviously,
it will.
every time they get a win, it makes our loss to them look even better.
Yep, you're right about that. So, Don, great stuff as usual. We'll do this again next Monday. Enjoy the bye week as we will, Tom.
Yep, and thanks so much, Coach. And I don't think we need to worry about any lake effect snow here anytime soon.
That's right, and we got a lot to look forward to because our coach has proven. I couldn't help but enjoy this. Did you notice that any number of times in the fourth quarter they had the camera on PJ? I don't know how much, but a lot. And I made a comment to Kirk. I said PJ had no answers. He's sitting there watching the game. I don't think he ever opened his mouth in the fourth quarter.
He looked stunned.
Well, he said in his post game, he said it's unacceptable. We just did.
He looked stunned.
He basically said they had no answers for what they did in the second half. So
yeah, it all starts with PJ. Of course, you never saw Hayden Frost stop coaching, and I will admit sometimes in the fourth quarter you felt like, I don't have any great ideas either. I'm the head coach. I'm sure that's how PJ felt. Mm-hmm. But it all gets back to halftime adjustments. We made great halftime adjustments on both sides of the ball. Ours were clearly better than theirs.
Yeah, and Kirk said he didn't give a Newt Rodney speech, and he said they made minor adjustments, but they had big results. But he said there was no dramatic halftime speech. I mean, that I think sometimes that's overrated. But no, Don, great stuff as usual. Like I said, we look forward to talking about some interesting games that are going to be played this weekend, and then we'll talk more about Ohio State next Monday too. Have a good week.
Absolutely. I can't imagine. Maybe this weekend it starts soon. Of course, we have a bye, so that means there are not going to be 9 conference games this weekend. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't shock me if there might be 8. There's going to be a bunch of conference games played.
Yep.
We have a bye. Somebody else has a bye, of course. I don't know that there are 8 conference games, but I guarantee I've only done 6 games so far in Big Ten play. But that number is probably going to double this weekend. I bet there might be at least 6 games.
Yep.
Involving conference opponents. So we got a lot of games that are going to be fun to watch and fun to analyze, and we can talk about those, and of course talk about how Ohio State shows up against Michigan State. We got a lot of good things to look forward to. Only a week away.
Okay, Don.
All right, Coach. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Okay, I am going to give a halftime speech that will inspire you.
All right, let go.
For the next
7 minutes for the stop set?
Well, more like 10.
1-800-800-ROSE. 1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist is the only number you need to know to send flowers anywhere in the country or Canada from anywhere in the country. 1-800-800-ROSE. It's so easy. Just remember one number. 1-800-800-ROSE. Your FTD florist. 1-800-800-ROSE. Remember.
For a gift that your loved one will treasure for a lifetime, find it at our family-owned jewelry store in Iowa City, Hertine and Stocker Jewelers.
We can show you diamond engagement rings, colored stones, fashion jewelry, and watches.
Our jewelers are on site so we can design jewelry for that special person in your life.
We are Hertine and Stocker, serving Iowa City and the surrounding area for 3 generations.
Hertine and Stocker Jewelers, downtown Iowa City, and HertineandStockerJewelers.com. Ask for Willa, Terry, Tim, or Kate. One of us is always there.
Don't wait for an emergency to get a backup for your car keys. Unlike the olden days, car keys have gotten extremely complex. Mike's eKeys for Cars can generate the most technically advanced automotive keys that are on the market today. For spares and lost keys, Mike's eKeys for Cars can produce most conventional transponder, high security, and remote head keys. Mike's eKeys for Cars will keep you on the road. Call 319-330-9185 and schedule an appointment today. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 319-330-9185 today.
Football fans, this is Bill Leichtenring of the Oxyoke Inn. We are on your way to or from the game. We're ready to serve you with the same quality food and customer service you've come to trust for over 80 years. The Oxyoke Inn is serving our famous Sunday brunch buffet with lunch, dinner, banquets, and carry-out daily. From our Oxyoke family to yours, we can't wait to see you again soon in the heart of Amana.
The Oxyoke Inn.
Don't tell them that we love that guy. And these people say that.
I think of my cell phone. There's not a big distinction there from family to customer, which I consider to be friends.
I love working with the people.
That kind of relationship that goes deep.
And when you hear those things, you think, okay, we're doing the right thing. We're doing it the right way.
We basically let you kind of walk us through the process, which is completely opposite of what a normal car dealership would do.
Deary Ford in Iowa City. See why people choose them over and over again. DearyFord.com.
GT Carr, owner of Supple's Building and Remodeling, has been offering unmatched service and quality for over 25 years. The trained professionals at Supple's Building and Remodeling will install and guarantee the products used in any job, no matter how big or small. They also stand behind their work and offer no-nonsense, exceptional customer service from design to completion and beyond. Whether it's a simple window replacement or a major house addition, you'll have the confidence that Supple's Building and Remodeling is committed to quality. Visit Supples.net or call them today at 319-337-2246. When you go to a family restaurant, you want 3 things. 1, a wide selection of breakfast, lunch, and dinner items. 2, you want those selections to be affordable and delicious. And 3, you want to be treated like family. You get all 3 at the Midtown Family Restaurant. Breakfast items available anytime the doors are open. Legendary tenderloins, onion rings, and hot roast beef sandwiches, and special ribeye and shrimp nights. Daily specials at each location, and no matter if you're coming in solo or with a group of 20, you get the same special family treatment. The Midtown Family Restaurants at Court and Scott Streets and at the Walmart Plaza on Highway 1 West. Follow them on Facebook or at MidtownFamily.com. The family's waiting for you.
Diamond Dream Sports Academy, 20,000 square foot indoor facility, holds 8 batting cages, space for infield work, space for throwing and pitching and all your arm care needs. Offers private instruction, group lessons, camps and clinics, leagues, memberships. Rentals available at Diamond Dreams is open to the public.
Our top level instructors include former professional, college, and Olympic athletes. Our coaches will help these athletes achieve their full athletic potential, develop a strong work ethic, and a solid base to build. The last thing you want to do is look back and wish you had worked or played harder.
Locally owned and established in 2005, Diamond Dreams is Eastern Iowa's premier training facility. Located at 2905 Stoner Court, North Liberty. Call today and reserve your time. 319-665-2173. 319-665-2173.
This is Leah Pasha, and I've been saying, hit a deer, call Premier, for years. But it's time for something new. It's still where you need to go for deer divots and door dings, as well as damaged dashboards. That's what my dad Nathan's driving at and dreams about. Why not say, when your car is dinged, be a deer and call Premier? I think Dad's going to love that. Premier Automotive, North Liberty's premier auto body repair shop.
Be a deer and call Premier Auto Body in North
Hawkeye
Liberty.
fans, you love watching the black and gold. You know Hawkeye black and gold. As a Hawkeye fan, there are no better colors than the Hawkeye black and gold. Hi, I'm Steve Anderson. When you're buying, selling, or refinancing your property, consider the green and white team, Hawkeye Title and Settlement. Give us a call at 351-8600. Hawkeye Title and Settlement. The team you love, the people you trust.
Are you tired of living in a home that doesn't quite meet your needs? Then it's time to call the experts at Streets Maintenance. Their team of skilled professionals specializes in renovations and remodeling, transforming your home into the space you've always dreamed of. From kitchen and bath remodels to complete home renovations, no job is too big or too small. Streets Maintenance will work with you every step of the way to ensure your vision becomes a reality. So don't wait any longer. Call Streets Maintenance to schedule your consultation at 400-4483. Let's start building your dream home today.
Hanging lights is a pain. Dealing with blown bulbs, dangerous installations, and the endless rat's nest of cords, there's got to be a better way, and now there is. Illuma Lights permanent outdoor lighting from Big Dog Tech. Illuma Lights provides illumination for every occasion. Holiday lighting, accent lights, security, and of course, lighting for the best season, football season. The Illuma Lights app lets you create your own patterns with color, motion, brightness, and static control over every individual light, or use Big Dog's presets to transform your home or business. The professionally installed track system makes Illuma Lights LEDs virtually disappear until you turn them on. Rated at 50,000 hours, you'll enjoy stress-free convenience for years to come. No more ladders, no more hooks, no more wifey's dirty looks. That's the song you'll be singing all year long with Illuma Lights permanent outdoor lighting from Big Dog Tech. Find out more at BigDogTek.net or call 319-395-0800.
Don't let just anyone take care of your smile. At Diamond Dental, you can expect compassion, expertise, and a personalized care plan to protect your teeth for life. With more than 30 years of combined experience, Dr. Forbes and his staff are prepared to tackle even your toughest dental problems, leaving your smile healthy and sparkling. Diamond Dental offers a full range of general and cosmetic dentistry, as well as dental treatment options for snoring and sleep apnea. It's never too early to start thinking about what's best for your smile. Schedule an appointment today by calling 319-390-3703 or visiting the office at 5815 Consul Street Northeast, Suite D1 in Cedar Rapids. You can also visit DiamondDentalPC.com for more information. Dr. Forbes is a proud sponsor of the Hawkeye Wrestling Club and the Inner Circle. Let the Diamond Dental team provide superior care for your entire family.
Looking for the perfect place to host your next private party? Tavern Blue on the Coralville Strip offers your guests the ideal setting that seats up to 80 people for special events ranging from retirement parties, birthdays, University of Iowa departmental parties, dinner rehearsals, corporate events, graduations, baby showers, reunions, and fundraisers. Forget the bland, lifeless hotel ballrooms. Tavern Blue offers 4 private party packages featuring delicious foods, amazing drinks, fun entertainment, a large venue, and easy booking. For more information on your next party room, drop by Tavern Blue on the Coralville Strip or contact them on their website, tavernblue.com. Eat, drink, and play at Tavern Blue.
KCJJ Weather, brought to you by Plum Supply.
Plum Supply kitchens and baths. Your home never looks so beautiful.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlau. A crisp, cool, and refreshing day today under mostly sunny skies as highs only climb to the low 70s. Clouds begin filtering in here this evening, becoming mostly cloudy overnight. And of course, there's a few spotty showers possible late. Otherwise, the sunshine returns in full force for tomorrow, with highs right back to the low 70s. That's the forecast on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Right now, it's 62 degrees.
Rod.
I like her. I think she's great.
Who?
Brittany Merlot.
Yeah. You're just walking the hall trying to entertain people.
These headphones are like Iowa's passing game.
Well, there are indeed 8 Big Ten games this week.
There you go. Should we break every one of them down? Just break them down. No, well, you got Wednesday. We got so much time to break this stuff down. It's a bye week. Captain, it's a bye week.
Yes.
What are you doing? What are you doing with the week off from Hawkeye football?
Well, probably eat
a
something.
lot like you do.
Midtown or Ariza?
Sleep. Midtown one day, Ariza.
The phone's ringing.
Yes, I understand.
Are you going to get it?
That, I guess.
Good morning, Karen.
Good morning. Hey, I was curious. Did the Minnesota student body ever get the chance of yelling, "We hate Iowa"?
I'm sure they did early. I wasn't paying attention.
I didn't hear it.
My seats, the way the press box is, we are at the far corner, but they're still not bad seats. They're behind the end zone, sort of at an angle. But they by the late third quarter, most of them were gone.
Yeah, if they did it before the game, and we weren't in our seats, we were trying to get in.
If they were going to do it, the second quarter was the time to do it, and I don't recall it being.
I know the one year. Well, I went many years, but one of the years I went, they started the cheer, and Iowa fans all started yelling, "We love Iowa," which drowned them out and stopped them.
Yeah, there was a lot of Minnesota fans at that game.
Oh, there sure were.
It was a great atmosphere.
Usually when they beat you after the game's over with, they're running around yelling, "We hate Iowa."
I know they do it in basketball games a lot at Williams Arena.
We want to kill them, but we don't do
it. But no, that's a nice stadium.
It is. I like the stadium.
But right now, PJ's, they're not very good.
No.
He looked like there was just a blank look on his face.
He had no answer. Don was right. Yeah. He just was.
It was funny because my brother, I called him at halftime, and he said, "If they don't do any better than this, I'm going to use my Iowa shirt to polish the car." And then after the game was over with, he said, "Well, I'll wear it proudly."
There you go.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of the exchanges on Twitter comments.
He thought that was the best second half we've had all year long.
But some of the comments at halftime where it was the world was coming to an end.
And there was
that's the ups and downs of sports.
There was a fair amount of that going around right around where we were sitting. I said, "Folks, there are two halves. There are two halves to every game. Let's let the game play out."
But I was worried at halftime.
Well,
I was
should
like,
have been.
God, are they really not this good? But no, they adjusted. But I think they adjusted. They came out and just played better.
They just
did. Played better more than anything.
Okay, well, you guys have a good day.
All right, Karn. But the angles that their defensive backs took on tackle, it was. I mean, I don't. Do you blame that on PJ? I mean, it does come down to coaching, what have you. But they landed a punch. Iowa just came back with counter punches, and Minnesota had no answer.
Yeah, and then they would put the camera on PJ, and longer than normal that they put a camera on.
He's the coach that brings a lot of attention. Like when they run out in the field, he leads the team, whereas Kirk doesn't. Kirk kind of trails, and Kirk doesn't seek the spotlight. PJ sort of does, and he's younger, and he's real energizer bunny, whatever. And they've had some decent moments, but this is a key moment for Minnesota right now. I mean, he's hit kind of a lull, and Iowa exposed them in the second half.
They did.
But the main thing is the Iowa offensive line just owned the line of scrimmage in that second half.
They did, and our defensive line did too.
The defense.
They don't have that potent running attack that we're used to.
Darius, what's his name? Darius, I can't remember his last name now. He started. I thought he was. I think potentially he is that, but they couldn't run.
No.
I mean, as great as running backs are, you still have. I mean, Caleb Johnson's a great running back, but Tom, you've seen him. There's been some massive holes to run through.
There have
this year. And Patterson was so close to breaking that one where they had such bad pursuit. Had that guy not tackled him, I think he would have been gone for like 70 yards.
Yep.
But Patterson had 66 yards in relief duty, and that's big. And I think he's going to continue to play. I mean, LeSean wasn't dressed. I mean, he's hurt again. I mean, he's just
and Moulton's hurt.
Moulton's hurt, but you've seen LaShawn's is a lower leg. I mean, it's one of those that's nagging that I just.
I feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him because remember he led the team in rushing last year, and we've also talked about how great. Another thing Caleb brought up when people were asking about last year losing him. Caleb was hurt a lot last year. Yes, he was. He only carried the ball 117 times. That's 10 carries a game if you average it out. He carried against Minnesota last year 6 times for 18 yards. He played, but he was hurt. And that matters. He's healthy right now. And
he's playing like it.
And he's playing like it, and he's getting good blocking. And we'll see. Other than Iowa State, though, I still don't think they've played I don't think Minnesota's a really good team.
No.
I think Minnesota, to me, will be lucky to go 7-5.
Well, and North Carolina's not any good, and they beat Minnesota. So.
Yes. I mean, North Carolina gave up 70 to James Madison. That was weird. Listen, Dallas had that thing on his phone, and he's like, hey, it's 50. You know what he say? He goes, hey, it's something 45 to I'm like, well, how much time's left? And he's like, 6:54 in the second quarter. I'm like, you're kidding me. I mean, yeah, those games are crazy, especially if you're used to covering Iowa football.
Yeah.
When you hear a score like that. But no, the stadium's not. That's a neat stadium. I like it. Now the parking and everything around it is a disaster. I mean, we found a ramp 1.3 miles away, and the first half of the walk from the ramp is all freaking uphill. And we had to climb 5 flights of stairs to get up because these ramps up there, a lot of them go under the ground.
Uh-huh.
There was no elevator anywhere near. It was just. I'll tell you, I got my exercise.
Well, we selected our motel because it was easy.
How many blocks were you from the stadium?
0.3 miles.
Okay. Yeah, so we had you beat by almost a full mile.
Uh-huh.
What hotel were you staying at?
Hilton Garden Inn.
Oh, I saw the sign right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, you also, we wanted to get out. I mean, were you in a big hurry to get out Sunday morning?
Not in a. We were under.
Did you have any Viking? Did you have any Viking traffic you had to deal with?
Not much.
Okay, because we had a ton of traffic driving. We got stopped. That construction in Brainerd, I think it was. Did you get stopped by that?
We had the construction we ran into was around.
Was it Faribault?
Faribault,
not Brainerd. Faribault. Yeah, we got stopped. It looked worse than it ended up being. There was a time where we were completely stopped. We probably lost 10 minutes.
On the way there, it was real bad.
But then, our biggest problem, though, was since I didn't have – Minnesota sent passes saying, hey, we don't give out parking passes. Your best option is to try to purchase something from the Oak parking ramp or whatever, which is probably maybe a half a mile away from the at the most. I didn't do that. I guess that's my fault. I could have done that. Then we could have gotten in. So we had to find something. But we probably took 30 minutes to drive 2 blocks because it was just bumper-to-bumper cars all around the stadium. And then we finally found a ramp that was next to the hospital, but it was down not far from the river.
And
that's
that
how far away we were.
Is so frustrating, isn't
it? It just, I hadn't done it for a while. Dallas handled it better than me. I think you guys would be shocked to hear that. I was losing it a little bit. I'm like, I kept saying to myself, this is what I love, man, living the dream, traveling to Big Ten. But, the walk back was, I can't believe how much the temperature changed. When we got there, it was hot and muggy.
Yeah.
And then when we got out of the stadium, well after, 11:30 or so, we walked out and we got greeted by a chill wind. I mean, it was completely different.
It was.
But no, a nice win for them, and to take away that crowd, because that crowd was ready. They had a maroon out. That place was, and there were some Iowa fans, don't get me wrong, but there were a lot of Minnesota fans.
There were.
And Iowa just came out there in that second half and said, no, you're not doing this to us. We're the better team, and we're going to start showing it to you right now. And they did.
And they did.
And now they, as a reward, they get a week off and get a couple days away. I think Kirk usually says, I even tell them, if you don't have to for treatment, just go away for a day or two and what have you. And then as another reward, then they get to play at Ohio State. Is that the best reward in the Big Ten, do you think, playing in football at Ohio State?
I'll let you know 2 weeks from today.
Okay, your confidence on a scale of 1 to 100, what percent?
To win? Well, have we won there twice in
91.
But we've won there twice in 100 years?
Roughly, yeah.
So you're asking
you're making fun of Hawkeye football right now.
So you're asking me what my confidence level is?
Are you making fun of Hawkeye football right now?
I'm making fun of you for asking him that question. How confident are you?
I will, because he exudes confidence. He's Mr. Hawkeye. I think
you have to play the games.
Well, what if you and Ann being there would help those odds go up? Would you consider going?
If I was sure it would help that our
So let's say
odds go up,
somehow
sure.
Bonnie Reynolds tells you it goes from 2%, and if you and Ann are there, it goes to 50% chance of winning. Are you there?
I'm there.
Okay.
You bet.
Okay, but now.
And if you're listening, get us those tickets. Let's go.
Now, kidding aside, what percentage do you give them of winning?
5.
Okay, I was going to say 15 to 20.
Well, then I'm a hater.
Well,
I would say 5 to 10%. You know,
because I'm just still not convinced this is a great Ohio State team. But that's like, they have so many 11 and 12 teams that. There's teams at Ohio State that go 12-2, and you completely forget. Whatever. I mean, but I'm not sold on this quarterback either.
Well, I'm not sold on our quarterback.
Well, that's.
Sorry.
Yeah, and God, I'm trying to just put some confidence and love in this show, and you two haters keep bringing.
Well,
if Bud was still alive, he'd be hating you guys, not me.
Yeah. Oh,
He'd
no.
call in and say, "Hey, why don't you let Harty talk a little more?"
He have enough hate to go around. Harty, you ruined that paper.
He'd blame me for ruining you guys today.
Yeah.
But no, I'll give him a 15-20% chance. Are you convinced? Do you think Caleb runs for 150?
If he does, we have an outside shot.
Well, and you took a little while before not answering me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
See, I think he could run for 150, and I still think they could lose 31-14. It's kind of like the reverse of with the Minnesota game.
Fair enough.
I could see him ripping off a 70-yard run. Let's say they're down 10.
And then being pretty well held in check.
I could see him carrying maybe 19, 20 times for like one and have like a 70-yard run. But what they have to avoid is, I'm dating myself here, but remember 1997. 4-0, Tavian leading the nation in rushing. Sports Illustrated did the article. They went out to Ohio State. This was 97. And they couldn't run the ball. And they just kind of fell apart. And then they went and lost to Michigan. But they just could not run the ball, and they were deflated after that.
So the scenario, though, that you just gave me, I don't think will happen. 20 carries for 150 yards. I mean, that's 7 yards a carry.
Well, what I'm saying, though, I said 20 carries for 150 with like a 70-yard, one of his long coveted touchdown runs. That takes those other 19 carries. What I'm saying is I could see that happening. Ohio State has shown that they can give up a big play every now and then. The other thing I've noticed with Ohio State players, they play with a lot of confidence, and sometimes they take chances that backfire on them. And I think they do that.
True.
No, I can maybe take this chance because we're probably going to score 50 today. I think it was funny. We were kind of, they haven't looked that good. Then I read off their scores, 52-6 and 56-0, and we're saying they haven't looked that good. But there's a high bar with Ohio State. And their fans, if this game with Iowa is close, they won't be happy.
No.
They can handle close with Michigan. That's about it.
As long as they don't lose.
Yeah, as long as they don't lose. But if this game with Iowa is one of those, and there's been a couple. Remember, Iowa didn't Vandenberg almost beat them? They've had a couple close calls out there.
And that was right after Ricky got injured.
But Cade McNamara, Cade has to play better.
Yeah, he does.
It's not all on him, I get it, but he is the quarterback. You get way more praise than you deserve when you're going good. And I'm saying right now, Cade McNamara has to play better.
If we throw for 62 yards against Ohio State, we're not
He threw for 2 yards in the second quarter.
I mean, we can't compete if we play like that. We can't compete.
Last
year, 92-0 against really talented teams.
And mostly that was because, LeSean did run for over 800. They ran the ball at times last year. Nothing like this year, don't get me wrong. But their passing attack has been so inadequate for now almost close to 2.5 seasons. Uh-huh. They got to address it. I still give Lester a pretty high grade. I would probably, if I'm grading Lester right now, I'd give him a B, B-, which pretty good. You can't give him much higher than that because the passing attack is not. Is it better than last year?
Percentage-wise, certainly.
A little, yeah. But as far as just producing touchdowns and consistency, it's really.
Passing attack.
Cade those were Deacon Hill numbers this past.
But the running attack is light years better.
Well, it's masking. It's now.
Sure.
It's kind of covering up or at least making it to where you don't have to obsess on it. But they got to get this addressed. They got.
Well, we've got 2 weeks to figure a little something
I think
out.
you got to throw for at least 150 against Ohio State to have a chance to win.
To have any chance.
And we act like, oh my God, 150. There's teams that throw for 150 in their sleep. I mean, we still make, even under Lester, and I've heard you say this before, they still make everything look so hard in the passing game.
They really do.
A guy does an 8-yard down and out. They throw it. Just God, can I get it to him? And God, can I catch it? And it's just everything's so hard.
It is, and you watch the other games,
like Illinois.
It just looks so easy.
People
are open.
He throws that ball to Pat Bryant. He turns and catches it. They make it look so. That's Illinois.
Yeah.
So, Captain, what do you say? What's your answer?
They better play better.
There's an answer coming with this call.
This guy's got the answer.
Hello.
Hey guys, I was wondering, and someday I'd ask Don if he sees it. Is Cade from his injuries? I mean, that dude looks like he's throwing off his back foot, falling away.
He does that a lot. That's just Cade, and he is not. I think he got away with that at Michigan, playing behind one of the greatest teams. But no, that's just Cade, and I don't know if they can break it at this point. He's in his 6th year.
I mean, everybody knows. I mean, if you played quarterback at any level, I mean, if you throwing the balls sail or they're underthrown,
you're on the back of your foot.
What's that?
You're throwing off your back foot.
Yeah, he's got to step up and step into them. I didn't know if that was an injury thing or what, but it's all hits and it's.
Well, I wonder about how confident he is in his body from the waist down. He doesn't seem real confident. Like there's times where I'm like, just tuck it and run. Just tuck it and run.
Yeah, and it looked like for a second it looks like he's going to, and then he checks himself and doesn't.
That's just if you're seeing that and I'm seeing that, to me that's a concern. If defenses don't think you're a threat to run, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and there are times, but you have to. You can't be throwing because even if they catch the ball, some of these guys don't have time to make a move or do anything, but either step out of bounds or get tackled.
That's because their routes always go to the sideline. They run so many horizontal underneath routes, and that's been through 4 coordinators. Have you guys noticed that? 4 coordinators, and they still run a ton of these underneath routes that basically momentum carries you to the sideline.
That would lead me to believe that there would be one common denominator throughout 4 offensive coordinators.
Our head coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not. And I'm not saying I like Kirk, so it's.
I do too.
No, I've got no problem with Kirk, but no, I think that is they've got a very conservative philosophy.
Well,
with
and
throwing
if you
the
throw
ball.
over the middle, it's riskier.
It is. It is. And Kirk is very
risk averse.
Do you think he coaches paranoid sometimes? If paranoid's the right word, he coaches. He's
very conservative.
He's very conservative, and no coach likes turnovers, but Kirk really hates them, despises them.
I mean, it just seems like guys not the last, but like the Iowa State game. Once we had that lead, and honestly, that game probably should have been 28-0 at halftime.
Could have been.
Could have been. I mean, that's what happens when you lose 4 points.
And it was just like once we hit that one point in the middle of the third quarter, it was like run, pass a pass. They know we're going to pass, and then we don't try to, like you guys say, and then rinse, repeat, punt, rinse, repeat.
Well, the other thing, too.
Trying to run the clock out.
The other thing, too, so many teams I see, if they get down in the end zone, if they try to maybe run, they don't get it. Then the quarterback rolls out. And with a lot of teams, that quarterback's elusive. He doesn't see anyone in the end zone. He tucks the ball, and he tries to elude one or two defenders.
Makes yards.
I don't think they feel confident in having Cade do that, and I think defenses are aware of that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So we'll see. They're 3-1.
One more question. If you were a head coach, and is your philosophy score as much as it takes to win, or score as much as you can?
You mean?
We can do that. We can score 31 points, but I'm just saying, do you score?
Mine would be score as much as you can, but then handle each. I mean, if you're destroying some team, I wouldn't. Not saying keep running up the score with it, but I think you go into a game, score as much as because you don't know how much the opponent's going to score.
For sure.
Yeah, you got to keep your foot on the gas. I mean,
to an extent. I mean, when they're up Illinois State 40-0 with late, I don't think you need to keep going for the jugular. Then I think you can back it off.
I understand that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's just because I've seen times just it's not that Iowa loses, it's how they lose. A lot of the time that drives me nuts.
They're just very conservative. I mean, they get ahead, then they want to protect the lead more than build on it. I think ideally they'd say they want to build on it, but they go about it very conservatively.
But they want to do it safely.
Kirk wants everything to be safe. He doesn't want to take chances. That's just how it is.
All right, guys, have a good one.
All right, you too.
Thanks for the call.
That's where you score as much as you can, and I don't care if you're running it up or not. Why? You're supposed to go out there and score.
Well, I'm not saying you
Why
give
do you
up.
Have to feel
I'm just
sorry
saying when
for
you're ahead of Illinois State 40-0 with 3 to go, you might want to run off tackle more than do a vertical route downfield or try. That's all I'm saying. Although, I mean, they had some vertical passing success. He threw for 258 against Illinois State, wasn't it? Or was that Troy? No, Troy was the high percentage. Not many yards, though. That 19 completions, that was 160. That's not a lot of yards for 19 completed. That was sort of a red flag right there. Even when he's completing a lot of passes, they're not gaining a lot of yards right now.
Hello. Which tells you horizontal and not vertical.
Yep.
I was in southwest Iowa most of last week and suppressed my gag reflex and listened to the Husker stations out of Omaha. And you want to talk about delusional. It wasn't if they beat Illinois, it was when. And when they beat Illinois, they were on track for a national championship.
Well, this is a setback then.
Yeah, well, they were wrong.
It would look that way. I mean, talk about a lunatic asylum. And the quarterback would be in running for the Heisman.
Heisman, oh sure.
Yeah, that's Nebraska fans.
Oh my God! Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks. I mean, I think Raiola's a fine quarterback,
I do. I mean, he's got an NFL arm.
Oh yeah.
He threw a couple balls across the field that were he made them look easy, and they're so anything but not easy.
But he's a kid. Still.
He's a kid, and he did miss that one, but I give him credit. In his post game, he stood up there in front and said, "That's on me." He goes, "I didn't rise to the occasion that moment." And I give the kid credit. I mean, he did that, and so, but they're still getting better under Matt Rule. It's clear that they're getting better.
Clearly.
But I saw one stat where they've lost how many games they've lost in a row to ranked teams and one-score games. It's just
they seem to find ways to lose.
And Illinois is pretty good.
I was thinking many times while watching that game, maybe it's okay we're not playing Brett this year.
Well, I kind of was thinking the same thing. Illinois is pretty good. Now, I don't think they have a ton of depth, so they can't get injured. Some teams can absorb injuries better than others, of course. But, I think the base of his team is pretty solid.
Speaking of which, we're relatively speaking pretty healthy going into our bye week, aren't we?
I mean, I know LaShawn, I mean, like I said, he wasn't dressed. We'll see where he is in 2 weeks. He has one of these injuries. I think the concern is once you get him back, will he re-aggravate it? It may not be one of those that completely heals until the season's over.
So is it a soft tissue?
I think he limped off you saw him limping off the field. It's some type of foot ankle type thing. But with and Kamari is, I can't remember what Kirk said about Kamari's, but I don't think it's.
I thought he was holding
his arm. But with Jazz and Caleb, they're fine.
Oh,
I mean, they're fine. You like to get Kamari back. You'd like to have 3 ideally. Plus, they're all 3 different in their styles. But Jazz is going to play more and more. Caleb can continue to be a star, but I think you're going to see Jazz get between 5 and 10 carries a game now at least. They like what they see from him. He's a little different style. He runs really hard. We've seen before he can catch. Remember, his first big gain as an Iowa player was a screen pass early in the season last year. And then, of course, he had the little breakout game against Iowa State. But Jazz he's a nice change of pace from Caleb, and that's a nice 1-2 punch. You get Kamari back, hopefully. But LaShawn, I'm not saying I'm giving up on him, but you just don't know. We'll see. With injuries, you just don't know. But if they always have 2 ready guys that they can rely on during the game, I think they're good. Of course, you want 3. But no, right now, this combo of Caleb and Jazz, I like it.
Well, and I got to think that Caleb that Ohio State's know who Caleb Johnson is now.
Well, yes, I'm sure they do now. That will be a storyline. I'm sure Caleb's going to be reminded when we have players next week.
I forgot that he was from Ohio.
Hamilton, Ohio. Chris Kingsbury.
So, that could be a little extra juice for him.
Yes. Yes, it could. Trying to think of anything else. Soccer won yesterday. They beat Illinois. Now, there I was cheering for Iowa soccer. I wasn't cheering for Illinois in that game. But I was. It was weird. It's weird cheering for other Big Ten teams.
You know, and sometimes it's hard.
But I was clearly cheering for Illinois. For Brett. I was cheering for Brett.
Yeah. Oh, I was
cheering
too.
for Brett.
Absolutely.
And he's the Illinois coach. And I'll admit, I've never been a huge Nebraska fan. Their fans are unreasonable. And
I don't
unruly.
hate Nebraska like some people do.
I don't hate any sports thing. I mean, hate is pretty strong. I mean, are you talking sports hate?
Yes.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I hate them.
It takes a lot of energy to hate.
Hate them.
You spend a lot of energy hating.
Hate them.
How much energy do you spend a day hating? How many calories do you burn a day hating?
I would imagine 1,100.
At least just from hating.
Just hating, just sitting here hating.
From the emotion and effort that it takes to hate.
Yeah.
All right, so on a different note, WNBA playoffs, 4 games yesterday. All of them went, according to Hoyle.
Yes.
All of the top seeds held
Yeah,
serve, and solidly.
That was one of the least enjoyable Fever games I've. It just was not fun to watch.
It wasn't, and when Kelsey and Caitlin, when they shoot, 18% or whatever they did from 3, they're never going to win.
No, that was brutal. And as great as Kelsey is, she still takes some shots sometimes. I'm like, yeah.
As does Caitlin.
As does Caitlin. But yeah, neither one. I mean, Caitlin, as great as she has been from 3, she still hasn't really been on from 3 all season.
No.
She really hasn't had one of those.
Would she end up with 31% from 3 or something like that?
Something like that, in the low 30s. And what was she yesterday? 1 for 10?
2 for
11?
Something like that, yes.
But yeah, she did hit 2 early in the third quarter, didn't she? Because the first half, I guess, of course, we're nitpicking, but she rarely gets off to quick shooting starts, does she?
It seems like it.
Like she has to adjust. But still, it's been a great season. Even if they get swept, which now I think they probably
likely.
will. I think they probably will. It's still been a great season. Major step forward. She made WNBA first team Rookie of the Year. Was she unanimous?
I think so.
She should have been. Yeah, so and it's been great. But boy, of course she wants to win this thing and play as long as she can. But if anyone will benefit from extended time off from the competitive ring, it'll be her.
Yeah.
She's been going for a long. I know a lot of people have been who played in college, but she played in the national championship game, and now she's been doing this. But she's also Caitlin Clark. There's a lot that comes with that. I mean, she's asked. She's at a press conference. He asked why she liked the Taylor Swift Instagram post. She's not just. A lot of people say stay in your lane. Well, people are pulling her out of her lane.
Pisses me off with the stay in your. They're citizens. They can talk.
Those people saying stay in your lane, had you said what they agreed with politically, they'd be embracing you. It's all strictly they disagree with what you're saying, so then they tell you to stay in your lane.
Well, this one guy was asked, I think it was MSNBC, he said, well, what do you think of Taylor Swift?
Oh, and then Kid Rock. I watched that.
Yeah. She should stay in her lane. Well, what do you think of Kid Rock?
Oh, he's a great American patriot. Just a double standard, just idiots.
Hello.
Hey, I was just going to say, yesterday, early in the game, Caitlin Clark took a fingernail to the eye.
She did.
And that could have affected vision the whole game. She's lucky if she didn't get a scratch iris, cornea, anything like that, any eye damage. Eye was turning black and blue by the end of the game, so that probably affected a lot.
If she was having trouble seeing, I don't think they would have played her.
But you could be right. I don't know. But she went right back in the game. I mean, she did. But no, that may have had an effect. All I'm saying is she's had a lot of games this year where she's missed a lot of threes.
Yeah.
You
could be right.
You could be right, though.
If you ever got poked in the eye.
I have before. It's not fun.
Football player, basketball player, or just a guy on the street, it hurts.
It hurts. Oh, yeah.
I have no doubt that it hurt, and you could see that the shiner was developing.
I was actually surprised they put her back in the game. I thought they would take her to the locker room and examine her more, but they must have. They've got a team doctor out there, but no, it might have been a factor.
Okay.
Thanks for the call,
guys.
And as great as the Fever have been, I just connect.
It may have been a factor, but she wasn't shooting well from 3 before that.
What about when you punched McCartney in the face?
Oh, I kicked his ass.
Oh, he's been wearing. You notice he wears sunglasses a lot.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Suter.
Kicked his ass.
So where'd you go after the game? Did you tear Minneapolis down?
No, we walked back to our hotel. We were going to stop at that Blaze Pizza place and split a pizza. They were closed.
That's the thing about Minneapolis. Stuff closes early. We left. We got out of the stadium about 11:30, quarter to 12, which was pretty early. And we go, and Chipotle was right by the stadium. They were cleaning up. All that was open was Domino's, and we go in there, and there's some Iowa fans that are just slobbering drunk. The one guy kept looking like he wanted to start. I'm like, God,
We had one beer at the game.
This guy was just, he was having, the wall was holding him up. He had spit hanging from, and Dallas Jones, and I'm like, oh, please.
See, I want to watch the game. I don't get anywhere near.
Well, Domino's was open, though, and that's the guy kept saying, 30 minutes. And I'm like, and then the cook finally says, he's trying to tell you it's going to be at least 30 minutes, and then we left. I'm not going to wait for it, but because there were 7 or 8, they were all decked out, and he had an Iowa jersey on, and they were all just inebriated.
My post-game meal was a bag of Cheetos from the front
That's
desk.
what I had mine, too. I got it from the gas station. But, Captain, they were crap canned. They were so drunk.
Hello.
So, Pat, what was it like meeting Fake Ackerman?
I'm lost.
Huh?
I'm lost.
I am lost, too.
Some people think they're clever.
I know, but what
I don't know.
Oh, saying that Fake Ackerman was drunk?
Was drunk? Or does he? Oh, you accuse him of being drunk. Okay. All right.
I see.
Let's remember every goddamn thing we've said in the last goddamn 30 years.
I didn't catch that
People
one.
make references to stuff that I said like 30 years ago, like I'm supposed to remember it.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember what I said 5 minutes ago.
But we were able to put it together. We thought about it, and we put it together, and we figured out that call.
Great. So this is what, modern-day Matlock going on here?
More canon. We're more canon.
Matlock, the show with Kathy Bates, the new one?
Yeah.
It's good.
Really?
She plays Ben Matlock?
No.
Not Ben.
What was I going to say?
It's a surprise ending, I'll just tell you that.
So is it a one-time show, or is it a series?
It's a series, but it's got a great hook at the end.
Absolutely. She's been,
she's good.
You can watch it on Paramount without any spots.
I'm sure you're a big fan of Misery, aren't you? The movie?
This is Misery every morning.
And I'm a Stephen King fan, but that story was troubling.
What, Misery?
Yeah.
I made it through about, I couldn't make it through that.
I got
movie.
Hunter cracking my knees every morning.
But no, these guys, and they were fine, though. But when the guy kept trying to tell me, and then when the cook did, and I looked back to the Iowa fan, he kind of nods at me and said, I told you. But, we walked on and just realized that there was Minneapolis, though, when I first started working at the Press-Citizen, when I was younger, in my 20s, and you'd go out and actually, I travel a lot different than I used to, but we were always warned that they start shutting things down a lot up there, like at midnight.
Yeah.
Like Dallas was saying, in downtown Iowa City at 11:30, 12 o'clock, everything's open for, like Dallas said, for another 2. A lot of places are just.
We had 3 or 4, reports this morning.
But there was nothing open around the stadium.
Well, Friday night we had dinner at the Graduate Hotel. I can't remember what the restaurant was called, but it was damn good. But across the street is the kind of the hangout for the college kids.
Mm-hmm. I know.
It's called Sally's.
Yeah.
There had to have been 250 kids waiting outside to get in to Sally's.
Never understood that.
My jaw just. What?
Especially college. I would have waited for.
Oh, never.
Especially in college, I didn't have the temperament or the attention span. The only thing I remember waiting in line for was Jaws. To go to Jaws, and I was like 8, 7. We waited in line. We waited in line, and the theater was packed. But and maybe a couple of amusement park rides. But no, I never.
I don't like to wait. I don't have enough patience.
Waited in line when I first came here for Simon and Garfunkel, and the Supremes.
I did. I saw the Supremes too.
Yeah. Did you, Willie Tyler and Lester?
Is that like a ventriloquist?
Yeah.
Or something? Yeah.
Before that, and then the crowd was mean to him.
Yeah,
and
it sucked.
pissed off the Supremes, and they wouldn't do an encore.
When you say wait, are you talking like an hour, hour and a half? How long?
No, overnight.
Oh, see, I never would do that. It's just
No,
see him.
Silly.
But and then we went into Sally's for lunch on Saturday, and it was busy, but there was no wait.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I mean, just sad, depressing. I mean, you're waiting overnight for that?
Yes.
Right. Yes. I mean, I like some Simon and Garfunkel. Bridge.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, lamppost. What you doing? Feeling groovy? You like Feeling Groovy? I like that song.
They sang that.
You ever play Feeling Groovy here?
No.
Hunter, do you play it on the oldies? There you go. Let's hear Feeling Groovy.
Yeah. All right, before we sign off for the day, turn it over to Molly. Let's go.
We have to turn it. We can't just
not the whole station.
So we're turning this thing over to Molly?
This show.
All right.
All right. Quick look at the football games this weekend. Washington at Rutgers. Minnesota at Michigan. Nebraska at Purdue. Nebraska. Maryland at Indiana. Wisconsin at USC.
But they're not near as good as I thought they were.
And Wisconsin's not very good.
Wisconsin, I never thought they were that good.
Ohio State at Michigan State.
I'm going to go Ohio State.
Me too. Now, this next one I never would have imagined this was going to be interesting, but maybe it will. Illinois at Penn State.
Oh, I think that's going to be very interesting. I'm going to go with Penn State, but I'm like 55-45. We'll see how real this Illinois team is. Now, of course, too, Illinois could lose this game and still go on to win 8, 9, 10 games.
Oh, sure.
You don't want to read too much into a game, but this will be a big test because I do think Penn State's a little better than Nebraska right now.
And it's not going to be a 31-0 like
Nebraska, like Don brought up.
Year.
Nebraska has a true freshman starting at quarterback. Penn State has Drew Aller, who's in his second year. That's a difference.
Sure. Oregon at UCLA, probably Oregon.
Oregon.
And yeah.
There you go. Well, everybody, thanks again to Coach P for more great insight. And now we got a bye week, and we meet with the coordinators tomorrow. So we'll get a little bit of Hawkeye football, but it's weird having 2 bye weeks in a season. I mean,
well, I know it's good for the team in a lot of ways, to recharge your batteries and everything. We'd all feel better if we were 4-0, but we would also feel miserable ass
2-2
if we were 2-2.
No, you're right about that. So everybody just embrace that 3-1 and go Hawks, right, Captain?
Go Hawks.
All right, Molly Suter's next.
From the Harty and Stalker Studios in the heart of the Hawkeye Nation, this is the